Providence.
And
Because there's no place else to go, and there's no other thing. One of the things about Joe Paolino's thought is cities are magnets. Ever since the invention of the city, the first place that poor people go when they are displaced is the center of the city. It is almost like a hard and fast rule. There is no other place where the displaced people of planet Earth go other than to cities. Why are cities still growing? Remember, cities have been growing for a long time, but until about 100 years ago, the death rate in cities was higher than the birth rate, and cities could not grow except that they took in displaced people. You know, farmers who were moved off the land by mechanization, or, you know, somebody built a mine and they poisoned the water supply and everybody had to leave the farm. That's how cities grew. Now, you know, with modern sewers, they grow in addition for their own. But we have to start to think about that. So Joe Paolino, by trying to do real estate development, actually increases the number of poor people who don't have any place to go and go to the city. You know, then we have the whole issue of the jobless future with mechanization. But the other thing that it does is that inequality in and of itself means that people use more fossil fuels. You know, the rich with their gas hogs, the poor by living in inefficient housing. You know, who's got the most energy efficient housing? Mostly people can afford to. Poor people live in, you know, tenements that are uninsulated. So that you continue, you know, that's why the carbon tax is such a good idea, because it will help provide money for insulating tenements. Yep. I mean, and that's one of the crucial factors that we need to think about, is we need to really bring the energy efficiency up. But anyway, so if we're driving this carbon stuff, then what we're doing is raising sea level. How many people think that downtown Providence is safe from sea level rise? Downtown Providence, remember, was underwater twice in the last century from hurricanes. It means, you know, a storm surge of 10 feet floods downtown Providence. Now they got the hurricane barrier. They think they can get away with it. But if sea level comes up 10 feet in the next 100 years, which is totally possible, you know, what tipping points are we getting? And if we keep having Republicans so we don't deal with climate change, and we keep, you know, I mean, fracking, I mean, why would we keep fracking? You know, do more coal mining. If we don't stop the fossil fuel stuff now, we are not going to have a downtown Providence. So actually, he's doing exactly the opposite of what he wants. He wants his property to be more valuable, but he's actually increasing the number of poor people downtown, and he's quickening the rise of sea level. So, I want us to think really hard about how do we create a prosperous community in a no-growth environment? Justice. You know, the whole issue of Black Lives Matter should be imparted to everything we do when we think about sustainability. That justice component absolutely has to be there, or it's not actually going to be sustainable. Let's see if I'm trying to move through here. I think I've pretty much hit all my high spots. The issues of democracy, what is actually sustainable on planet Earth, and the nature of economic development. The one thing I wanted to talk about that I find very hopeful is the resistance. You know, the whole idea of resisting the pipelines, resisting the fuel plants. I think that is probably the most hopeful thing going. You know, we need good technologies, and, you know, those of you who work in those technologies to reduce carbon pollution, to, you know, do better composting, all of those things are absolutely necessary. But I want you also to keep that issue of justice in your brain as you do this work. But I think what we really need to do is figure out how are we as a society going to use less and share more. And so I'll end with a little quote that I use. You cannot heal ecosystems without ending poverty. You cannot end poverty without healing ecosystems. And if you don't shut down the war machine, you won't do any of it. Thank you. Questions?
That was great.